Right. So I did grow up in Eastern Europe. And as I shared with you, my mom used to cook all the meals from scratch. We grown our vegetables in the garden. Pretty much everything was organic. Not a healthy diet though, because we are Hungarians. So a lot of animal products and sausages and, you know, what goes with it. But I was healthy. I didn't have any digestive issues, any health issues. My family was fairly healthy. Um, there were no cholesterol issues, cardiovascular issues. There were no diabetes. Dad unfortunately did got diagnosed with lung cancer, but he was a smoker. So, you know, that's just Eastern European habits. So when I was 26 years old, after finishing medical school in Romania, I moved to the United States. And there becomes my journey on a different continent. I had already a 3-month-old baby, and my husband was a physician as well. So we moved, and we were planning on getting our licensure and, you know, raising our child and live happily ever after, chasing the American dream. And things took a turn overnight. I became a single parent, and I had to make a decision. I had to provide for my child, and taking the licensure exams would have been a long process. So I decided to go into nursing, which is still, you know, medical field and doing what I love. And I did work for 12 years in the nursing department as in an infectious diseases nursing department. And then
Perfect.
years ago, I moved over to administration.
So tell us a little bit about as you're making this journey, your GI system is also making its own journey, and
Right.
how it's speaking to you.
So going back to Europe, I was healthy. I never had any digestive problems. I used to say I could probably digest a truck if I would have to. It was robust. I never had any issues, not even food poisoning or anything like that. So I moved to the United States, and of course I get very fast acquainted with the fast food industry. And working as a nurse and being a single mom, it was easier to just go eat out and forget about what mom taught me, to cook your own food. And surely enough, I started getting gastric upset, bloating, you know, unusual symptoms that I was never acquainted with. And also around 2006-07, I had 2 knee surgeries. I had damaged cartilage from exercising. And my surgeon told me not to run anymore because that would greatly damage the cartilage in the knee. So I switched over to lifting weights. And I got acquainted with the bodybuilding industry and the protein powders and protein bars. And that's when my digestive problems started really coming to the front. And it was anything from bloating and indigestion and heartburn. And at some point, I saw an advertisement on TV for Splenda. It was advertised as a natural sugar substitute, of course. And I was so happy to see that. No calories. Oh my God. Tell me which young woman wouldn't go for it. I was drinking a lot of coffee at the time because I was working long nursing hours. So I started using it in my coffee. And the symptoms didn't come up right away, but insidiously, I started feeling worse and worse and worse. So I got to the point I actually lost about 20 pounds from, I'm 5'7" and weighing 130 pounds. So I didn't really have much weight to lose. And people around me, especially the doctors and nurses I was working with, they're starting noticing and remarking like, you don't look good. Is everything okay with you? So I started sharing my problems, that I'm having bloating and digestion problems. And I'm going to tell you, honestly, at the beginning, I was labeled as, you know, anorexic, and oh my God, young women, she just wants to lose weight. And I heard those comments behind my back. So eventually I do end up seeing a gastroenterologist. I am diagnosed with Crohn's disease after a colonoscopy. And then 3 months later on therapy, I remember I was taking 8 capsules a day. Don't quite remember the medication though, but I wasn't feeling better. So I went back, they did another colonoscopy with a biopsy, and it turns out it wasn't Crohn's disease, IBS. All young women have it, you know, it's hormones, it's stress, it's what have you. I was sent home and I was not feeling well. So I said to myself, if I'm going to have to live with this the rest of my life, I'd rather educate myself on it. And I started reading up, and I remember I bought this book, The Gut, the Second Brain, written by 2 physicians. And I found aspartame in that book as being a trigger for IBS. And I said, you know, I don't use aspartame. So I go in my kitchen and pull out everything in my cupboards. And sure enough, there was stuff with aspartame in it. And one morning I'm making my coffee, I'm putting my little yellow packets in my coffee, and it literally hit me like, what are you? So I went and immediately Googled Splenda or sucralose, and there came a torrent of testimonials and stories of people getting sick. And so I stopped using it, of course, immediately. Right. And all my symptoms went away. All my symptoms. However, I cannot say that I returned to my usual state of health. I start becoming sensitive to foods. So I'm starting to become allergic to certain foods I'm eating. My face would turn red. I would get rashes. I would wake up with a swollen face and hands and feet. So it was the time when I realized that not everything that's sold in grocery stores, it's safe to eat. And I did go ahead and signed up for a nutritional class online. So I do have a nutrition certification. And of course, I learned the usual things, you know, eat healthy, chicken, fish, turkey. And I was doing that. So my gastric issues at this point are mild. I would still get bloating. I would still get indigestion, pain. A lot of times I usually say that I have a boa constrictor in my stomach, because my bowels were just going and loud, and you could literally hear my peristaltis. It was funny. And Dad gets diagnosed with lung cancer in 2015. And it was a late stage lung cancer. Surgery was not recommended. They sent him home on palliative care. And once again, I'm diving into literature to see how I can help my father. Because I knew it was a terminal diagnosis. But I wanted to be able to offer some solace for him, you know, especially having a medical education. It's painful to see your parent dying. And I read, and you know, of course, healthy nutrition is one of the first recommendations for anybody who's diagnosed with cancer. So I dived into the healthy nutrition again, and accidentally I trip over What the Health on Netflix. And I watched the documentary, and Lori, I remember the day like it was yesterday. My jaw dropped. I mean, it was information that was so new to me. I mean, what do you mean eating chicken is not healthy? So at that point, I realized, oh my God, this could be helping me as well. And I actually turned to a plant-based nutrition overnight. I cleaned out my entire kitchen. I put my dad on a plant-based diet, and he did survive 3 years past stage 4
Wow.
cancer diagnosis. So I am not going to say it was because of the plant-based diet, but I'm sure it contributed.
Sure.
And his demise was easy. He literally went down the hill 3 months before he passed away. Until then, he didn't have pain. His quality of life was good.
Wow.
Unfortunately, we did lose him, which is inevitable with lung cancer.
Right.
But I continue my trajectory on a plant-based diet, and I felt amazing from the day. I'm sure it's mental as well, because it's such a new world, and seeing all the recipes and the beans and the lentils, which I haven't touched until then, because oh my God, they're carbohydrates, right? So I was doing really good, and I even started sharing with friends and family members. My mother went plant-based. My sister, who lives in Germany, went plant-based, and I'm seeing all this great stories around me. I had friends. I have a dear friend who lives near to me, and he was on the USC kidney transplant program. So we went out one day hiking, and I was telling them about my new diet and look at the science about it. He's an engineer, so you know, he's an educated person. He didn't say much, but next day he sat down with his wife and said, you know, we should try this. And they did. And 3 months later, when he went back to USC to have his labs drawn, because he was monitored every 3 months, his kidney function was better.
Wow.
And 6 months later, his kidney function was better. It got to the point his kidney function improved 40%.
Oh my goodness.
And they were evaluating, should we take him off the transplant list? Should we not? So, of course, he was, I want to say, scared, you know, of the being taken off the transplant list. So what he would do, 1 week before he would go in to have his labs drawn, he would go back eating meat, and his kidney function would fail. So all the way until he got to the transplant. He did have the transplant last year in March. It was successful, and immediately went back to plant-based diet. Him and his wife both, they're doing fantastic.
Wow.
It's one of my dear stories, and I do have their permission to share, of course, no names. But so we are looking into about a year, me being plant-based, my energy level was just off the roof. I used to say, if I could bottle my energy, I would probably make a good chunk of money off of it. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I go to the gym, I come home, I go to work, I work 8-10 hours, pretty stressful shifts. And, you know, managing a hospital infectious diseases department is a chunk. And then I come home and I take my dog out for walks, sometimes 5 miles. Now we're slowing down because she's nearing 9 years old, but she's in great shape. And then sit down and do my work, and go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night, and next day do everything. And I'm nearing 47, so it's not, I mean, I wanted to say I feel more energetic than I felt in my 20s.